Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one makes countries. Lie to your face, fight and die. Cause God forgive. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social side, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one leaves countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again. Yeah.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is Rock the Boat right here on UCY.TV, my favorite little online network. And it is, let's see, what is it? It's the 22nd of October. Very nice day out today, you know. Got a little bit of a breeze. It's 20 degrees or so. That's Celsius. We're not freezing to death up here yet for my American friends. So it's around, I don't know, 70, a little over 70 degrees. And, you know, leaves are still pretty much green here. It's pretty nice. It's supposed to turn a little nastier next week, but we're going to enjoy this while we got it. Anyways, we got 2 hours here, and I think we're going to start today is, if I still have that up here somewhere, I think I am going to, I'm not going to spend any time on it so much, but where did that go? Oh, here it is. I really like this little video. And I want to stuff it in here. And it's called The Fable of the Ducks and the Hens. And I haven't seen anything that explains this easier and better than this little video by George Rockwell. Don't know what year he wrote this thing, but it's pretty damn interesting. Because, you see, our forefathers came here and they worked hard and they labored and they built things, and they built their villages and their towns, and they were honest, law-abiding people, law, not legal. The legal system came in and screwed them over later. But it shows you how these who don't produce anything subvert the good and turn it evil. So it's a little story about the ducks, who are a very good bunch of people, hard workers. Then a bunch of hens show up, and they want to come into the town, and they've been persecuted or whatever somewhere, and they want to come into the town. So they come in, and the hens are just kind of hanging around, you know. And finally, the ducks asked them, you know, like, what are you going to contribute? Well, we'll run the media, and we'll run the schools, and so on and so forth. And eventually they do what they've done now. They did it with the native people. They're doing it with us. It's the same template. They take the ducks' children and they mess with their minds. And they turn the children against their parents, the ducks. And they side with the hens because it's the hens that fill their head full of propaganda. But this is at the beginning of this movie or this video. It's only 14 minutes long. It's a cartoon. But the beginning of this and all the way through it basically is what happens when the subversion takes place. And the end of it is really the beginning of when our forefathers came to these lands to get out from the Buddha tyranny. So it begins with the hens showing up, subverting the ducks, destroying their society, and that would be the ducks in Europe, our forefathers who fled Europe and Britain and that to get out from underneath the Buddha tyranny, to come to a new land and start over. And that's how it ends. You know, only problem is now we don't have anywhere else to go. There's nowhere else to go. So we got to put our feet down and we got to kick the snot out of these hens, which is your universities, your unions. And I'm not talking about the people. Most of the people who work for a union or work in a university, most of these people could be just classed as useful idiots because they don't know even what they're involved in. They don't know what their professors are up to. They don't know what their union leaders are up to. Same thing in the churches. They don't know what their preachers and their priests are up to. These people have all sold their freaking soul. But the union leaders are preaching to their choir, and their churches are preaching to the choir. Okay, these are groups of people who are being used to push this globalist program forward, and most of the people don't have a clue that their leaders are involved in anything nefarious, but they are, and we just got to put our feet down and deal with it. Anyway, they're going to throw this in. Enjoy this thing. It's quite good. You can look up George Rockwell if you don't know who the guy is, George Lincoln Rockwell. It was kind of cool, too, because he was in the Navy for a long time, and then he started the U.S. Nazi Party. And when he was murdered, finally, even though they discharged him from the armed forces, because of his political beliefs, they at least gave him an honorable discharge, which says a lot. Okay, it actually says a lot. And then when he was after he was killed or assassinated, he was buried in a veterans or whatever cemetery. So even though the government says they didn't like his political field, they still didn't dishonor him, because I think a certain faction of that knew that what he was saying was correct. Okay, the subversion's been going on for a long time. But now they're coming in for the kill. So we have to stand up. So I'm going to put this in here anyways. You can look at it. And if you're just listening, just go look up The Fable of the Ducks and the Hens. And understand what you're watching. Because it's important to understand. I mean, it's so blatant the way the hens rolled in, just like they did with our forefathers, and slowly subverted their system and their society. And that's no good. So, watch it. I have, hopefully, Karen Draper of Calgary. I'm going to see if I can get her in a few minutes. She wants to talk about some of the not so above board stuff that went on during the Calgary election. Anybody with half a brain knows that that election and all elections turn out the way the powers that be want them to turn out. And in a lot of cases, they don't really care who wins because they run both sides anyways. That's how deep the subversion is. You people go out there and vote, and you talk about the left and the right. This candidate or that candidate. These people are all vetted. They're all vetted. They control both sides. I mean, there's nothing more blatant than when Morris Strong was thinking about running in '68 for the Trudeau government. That Rockefeller kind of pulled him aside and said, "What the hell are you doing?" "Well, so we can have influence." "Whoa, boy, hold it, son. We already control both sides. We can have a lot more influence from the outside than the inside. So all your governments is the window dressing. When you walk down the street and you look in an appliance store or you look in a clothing store and you go, "Oh, look at that." That's all that is. It's the storefront. The real business is taking place in the back rooms. They set these people up for you and the little puppets dance. And the right brain goes, "Oh, look at what they're saying." And the left brain does their thing. And you have a nation that's continually divided as planned. Okay? We got to get rid of this party system. It has to go bye-bye. A nation divided cannot survive. It's that simple. And this is what they're using to take us down. So I was looking up one thing I can't find. I was going through some phobias. Actually, I was looking for something else the other day, or a week or so ago, and I ran across Judeophobia. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. And Islamophobia, hostility or discrimination against Muslims, supposedly rooted in a dread or hatred of Islam by 1966 from Islam plus phobia. So Islamophobia apparently rolled around 1996, but we have Anglophobia, intense hatred or fear of England or what is English, 1793 Jefferson. Where did I see that? We have lots of phobias anyways. Judeophobia, fear or hatred of the Jews, dread of their influence and opposition to their citizenship, 1881. So we've been having phobias here since quite a while. I didn't see any white phobia in here, which is kind of weird. Like maybe Anglophobia is white phobia. I don't know, but it appears to me that the only thing that I can call down right now, and be safe, not to be hassled or arrested, is if you're heterosexual, I can call you every name in the freaking book. And nobody's going to bother me. If you're white, I can call you every name in the book. Nobody's going to bother me. If you're carrying the faith that your forefathers brought to these lands, and you claim to be a Christian, I call you every name in the book. Ain't nobody going to bother me. See the problem? Everything we are is a problem. If you're a white, straight Christian, it's a wonder they ain't burning you in the fires on the streets. It's a wonder they ain't hanging you from the nearest tree. Because you're what's wrong with the world. If we could just get rid of all you white Christian heterosexuals, the world would be a wonderful place. Well, you can't say that about me. Well, sure we can, because you're the problem. Well, I don't want you Islamic people. Hey, can't go there. Yeah, well, the Jews don't. No, can't go there. Well, no, you can't go there either. You'll get in trouble. But how come you can call me every name in the book? That's the new playbook. You are the problem. Well, I think it's about time that we stop backing up to this shit. Okay? It was our white, European, Christian, European forefathers who came to this land to make a new life. And now, the offspring of those people are cowering like a bunch of whipped dogs. You can hear them, oh, you can't say that. You'll get in trouble. Like, bite me. How the hell did we get here? Oh, yeah, it was the hens. I watched the video. It was the freaking hens, which is the Jews, mostly. They say we're a Judeo-Christian society. How in the hell can you be a Judeo-Christian society when they're opposites? How can you welcome Islam into your nation when it's there to destroy you? How can you allow someone to call you a white supremacist? Well, that's who founded the country. It's really quite pathetic. My forefathers, your forefathers, are kicking the shit out of their caskets, trying to get the hell out so they can give you a slap up the back of the head and say, smarten up. How damn stupid, how weak can you possibly become that you would roll over to this nonsense? I put this out to the police, and I put this out to the armed forces. Get your act together. You both took an oath to the Queen. The Queen's a fiction. The Queen's a title. The Queen don't matter. The Queen don't breathe. The Queen don't walk, and the Queen don't talk. You didn't take an oath to Elizabeth, who does walk, talk, breathe, and has blood coursing through her veins. You didn't take an oath to the woman that took the oath to uphold the law, not the legal system. You took an oath to protect The queen, which is a corporation, a dead fictional entity. You abuse people, you hurt people, you kill people, saying you're upholding your oath. Well, you took an oath to protect and serve a dead fictional legal entity outside the law. All you people, including the police and the army guys, gals that go to churches, and on the one hand, you pray to God, but in reality, you protect the dead fictional corporation, which by definition is Satan. Legal, by definition, is adversarial. When you look up adversary, you find the word Satan. That's how screwed up people are, you know, and this is the whole thing. It's right, left all the time, right, left, good, evil all the time, and they mix the two together constantly to deceive you. You know, one of the best little quotes ever is, "Take heed, no man deceive you." You can add woman in there. Because they've all been put in a position to help deceive you. Not all of them, but the ones that are involved in the churches, the unions, the politics, they're all deceivers. When our forefathers came here, they understood the difference between legal and law. They got that. They used to run the lawyers out of town. They wouldn't let the Catholics hold any political power. That went on for a very long time. But eventually the hens, if you will, weaseled their way in. And just like in that cartoon I put in there, of that story that Rockwell wrote, they took over your media, they took over your schools, they took over your law system, they took over your political systems. Deception after deception after deception after deception. Take heed no man deceive you. Are you been deceived enough yet? You are completely enslaved in a fictional system. You bow to a fictional system. You protect a fictional system. You hurt each other constantly to protect a fable, to protect a fantasy. It's like we're all living in a children's book. But then what they did through control of the media and the entertainment and the schools and the religions is they managed to keep you in a childlike position where you bow to authority, but you're bowing to the wrong authority. You wonder why the world is in the mess it's in? Time to wake up, boys and girls. You watch that video, and you know somebody that's got little kids. I want you to send them that video of the ducks and the hens. I want them to see that. I want them to see what the schools, it depicts the schools so frickin' well, depicts the politics very well as well. But in particular, it really shows the education system, or the so-called education system, is not a knowledge system, it's an education system. An education system is a system of deceit and lies. So that you will bow to this authority and you will believe anything that they tell you. That's the whole point of the school system, is that you don't question. You just believe what the authority, the teacher, tells you to believe. And then when you go to school, anything that's put in your face that says authority in front of it, you bow to it and you believe it unconditionally. Because why? You don't want to be sent to the principal's office. And that's all the courts are, is an extension of the principal's office. A speeding ticket is nothing more than running in the school hallway. You didn't cause anybody any harm, but the school monitors driving around in the cars you purchased for them, and the guns you purchased for them, and the pepper spray, and all the rest of the bullshit, are nothing more than school hall monitors. All a crock of absolute nonsense. Now, fear or hatred, I don't understand the fear part in all of this stuff. It always says fear, fear of. I think they could leave the fear out. I think that's a wrong definition. There's another saying, fear not. I don't fear the Jews. I don't fear the Islam. I hate both of them with an extended passion. Now, Islamophobia and Judeophobia are one and the same, because these two entities are tied at the hip. And people say, well, you can't say that. If you go to Jew News they're always bitching about the Muslims wanting to kill the Jews. Well, there never was that many Jews, really, so how come there's still Jews on the planet? If the Muslims wanted to kill Jews, they would have killed them a long time ago. Nothing is more telling than that Christmas party. I think it was in Ottawa. And the only people invited to the Christmas party were two parties that don't celebrate Christmas, were the Jews and the Muslims. They sat down and had dinner together. Members of Parliament, the Jewish members of Parliament and the Islamic members of Parliament went and had a dinner. Everybody else was celebrating Christmas. They're having their discussions. Anybody that thinks that the Jews and the Muslims ain't working hand in hand to take us down is an absolute idiot and a fool. Somebody calls you a white supremacist, say thank you. Don't apologize to these people. Ever. Don't say, well, I'm white, yeah, but I'm not a white supremacist. Just say thank you. Enough of this apologizing. Enough of this backing off. Our forefathers were white. Our forefathers believed in the Creator. Our forefathers came here to follow the law that was given, not the legal system that was created by man to enslave man. And you people are running around out there apologizing for being what we're supposed to be. No more apologies. You don't like it, get the hell out. And if you keep whining and bitching, we're going to kick your ass out hard. We're going to start making examples. You want fear? You want fear? We'll give you fear. You know, why is there no different definition of whiteophobia? Maybe Anglophobia, but that's strictly for the English. And this country was founded by white Christians from all countries in Europe. So it's not Anglophobia. We need to create whiteophobia. We need to put the fear. It's okay if they hate us. They already hate us. They tell us that every freaking day. You know, I don't see whiteophobia wrote down here anywhere. I don't in this etymology. I don't see it. So they don't fear us. That could be a problem. If we fear the Jews and we fear Islam, then we're going to go down the toilet. Fear makes man weak. And we need to put the fear into these a-holes that are trying to destroy our nations. So we need to kick up whiteophobia. I want the Jews and I want the Islamic people to be fearful as hell of us. And I want them to steer clear of our nations. Because if we keep backing up, well, it's going to be like that video. Except in that video at the end, the ducks bailed out of there and went and found a new place and started again. They learned their lesson about the hens. And that's exactly what our forefathers did. They learned the lessons of the hens, the subversion. And we let them subvert us. And there's nowhere left to go. As Orwell said to his girlfriend up and above that antique store where the hell it was they used to meet in. He looks at Orwell and says, let's just get out of here. And he goes, go where? He looks at him and goes, I don't care, anywhere. Well, my friend, everywhere is the same. There's nowhere left to go. There are no new lands to go and start over. We got to go back and learn the lessons that our forefathers learned and understand why they left their homelands. You don't go and get on a frickin' boat with nothing, basically, to go on a trip that you're not even sure where the hell you're going to end up at, or if you're ever going to arrive, not knowing what it is you're going to run into when you get there, not understanding the hardships that are in front of you. But they wanted the opportunity to start again. And that is the only thing that they came for. If they'd been happy where they were, they would have just stayed. But they'd had enough of tyranny. So they did what they felt they needed to do, and that was get the hell out of there. We got nowhere else to go. This is it. Either we're going to stand up and take control of our nations, or we're going to fold, and we will be nothing but a footnote in history. Because the victor writes the history. We're watching our monuments, we're watching our history be erased right in front of our frickin' eyes. Then we do nothing. This is working out to be the easiest takedown that ever happened. You know, and Warburg, the old Fed people, stated very specifically at the 1950 Senate hearings that we will have a world government by conquest or consent. These are the people who start all the wars. But what they have in the West here is they have us consenting. That's pathetic. And we're silent. And silence is consent. And we sit idly by while we watch our nations taken away from us. The futures of our children or grandchildren extinguished. It's bloody disgusting is what it is. We should hang our heads in shame, but just for a moment. And once we understand that we've shamed ourselves and our forefathers, it's time to lift your head, open your eyes, strengthen your spirit, mind, and spine, and take back our nations. Now, for all you folks in the military, all you folks that are veterans that thought that you were going to defend the freedom of your nation while you were sorely deceived, and all you police who've been internationalized, what's it called? International police chiefs or global police chiefs, whatever. You can go Google that. You'll find that all police forces are internationalized now. And their actions show it. So if you're in the military and you're in the police force and you want to be part of this nation, then act it. Show that you want to be part of this nation. Because at this point in time, you're actually the enemy of the good men and women of your own nation. Because you're doing the bidding of the internationalists. I mean, have you ever seen a police force stand on the side of the people? You know, a G20 meeting comes into town, they come out with the noise cannons and that, and the hoses and the batons and the tear gas. When these internationals roll into town, when a corporation rolls into a town or something and the politicians tell that they can suck whatever water they want out of the ground, and the people protest this because it's their water. You ever see the police on the side of the people? Never. Why? Because they took an oath to serve a dead, legal, fictional entity. No politician serves you. The police do not serve you. The military do not serve you. And it's time that the military and the police got on side. You know, one of my favorite all-time things that ever happened in the United States, or not the United States, but America, was the Bundy Ranch stand down. You know, that was brilliant. You know, I was in the United States when they burned down Waco. I was down there from the beginning of it to the end of it. And I met a lot of good American people down there from all over America. I kept asking them, why are you letting this happen? Where are the people? Why are the people not over there and getting between the police, military, and the Branch Davidian? And I told these Americans, this is a test, folks. This is a test. And the test goes like this. Can we center out a group of people on television for, 51 days or some ridiculous thing? And abuse these people who haven't harmed anybody and eventually take them out in the most vicious attack on American people who have done nobody any harm? Where are the people? You know, it's that old story, they came for the so-and-so and I didn't stand up, and they came for so-and-so and I didn't stand up because I wasn't one of them, and I didn't stand up for these because I wasn't one of them, but when they came for me, I looked for someone to stand up for me. There's nobody left. They were testing your strengths. They were testing to see if they'd weakened you enough that they could do with you what they wanted. Then you proved them right. I was very disappointed, extremely disappointed in Americans. But then the Bundy standoff, I regained some faith in my American brothers and sisters. They did exactly what they should have done at the Davidian. They got in between them. And these people that came to intervene in the Bundy standoff, they came from all walks of life. Maybe the Branch Davidian takedown had something to do with it. Maybe their conscience got to them. And they knew they didn't fill their moral obligation. They showed up at the Bundy Ranch. Loaded for bear, with peaceful attitude. It was a complete and total case of good versus evil. Now the Fed, all of these people, or officers, or whatever, and they all took an oath to serve the corporation, which is the United States, not the people, which is America. And the people, which are Americans, stood down to fiction. It was a simple case of getting up on their moral high horse, understanding somebody's going to blink, and it isn't going to be us. So once they made the decision they weren't going to blink, the only other party that can blink is the evil, the same evil that took down the Branch Davidian. And they blinked. And that's how we get our nation back. We have to stand as moral people, moral men and women. Because the oath to the corporate fiction puts them on the side of amoral. And moral will always put down amoral if it stands up and does not live in fear of evil. Do not be deceived, and do not live in fear. Those two simple statements is the difference between your country regaining its moral stance, its lawful stance, or succumbing to the legal, amoral position of a corporation. Your choice. It is your choice. Do not blame the politicians. Do not blame the preachers, the priests, the rabbis. Do not blame your union bosses. Do not blame your military commanders. Do not blame your police chiefs. Do not blame the administration. Blame yourself. They're going to continue to do what they do. But comparatively speaking, they are few, we are many. So we just have to walk away from their amoral position. And gather together as a people. In a moral position, they have no power. They only have the power that we give them. The only way they gained any power was through deception and fear. And once you see, you cannot not see. And once you know, you cannot not know. And then you can no longer be deceived. And you will no longer live in fear. That's the answer. Simple. You have to gather up the moral men and women. You have to get the knowledge to them. You have to get them to understand. Then you're not going to get them all to understand. You don't need to get all of them to understand. When the moral men and women got between the feds and Bundys, it didn't take the whole nation. And it's not going to take the whole nation to take the nation back. But as long as you feel that you're not obligated to do something, well, you think if you're not obligated to do something, one, you're wrong. But if you're waiting for somebody else to step up and fix the problem for you, it ain't going to happen. It's your responsibility. It's your duty. You know, I don't know who said it. I'm not that big on American history. I know some of it. But I guess probably maybe it was Jefferson say that you got to have a militia, well-armed militia, so that when your government turns against you, you can turn against them and take your nation back. I'm still of the opinion that we don't need violence, because violence is what they want. They're stewing it up all the time by taking this faction that they created and that faction they created and putting them against each other in the streets. All you have to do is look at the civil rights movement in the 60s and the burnings in Detroit and the shootings in Philadelphia and all the rest of this nonsense. It's all constructed chaos. Out of chaos comes order. They're throwing the whole world into chaos because they want world order. So make a very chaotic world stage. Confuse people, deceive people. But everything they do is amoral. And why would we let an amoral entity stomp the good moral men and women? Why would we allow that? Why would we live in fear? Why would we stand down? Makes no sense. Anyways, I'm going to try and lighten this up a little bit and see if I can hook up with Karen and see what she found out about Calgary, which gave a third term to a Muslim to be the mayor of the city of Calgary. It's the fifth largest city in the country. Somewhere in there, third or fifth. And see what she has to say about it. She ran in the election as a school board trustee because she gets it. She sees what the hens are doing to the little ducks. Well, welcome back to the show. That was weird. I guess we're back on. Okay, says we're back on there. Thanks, Jules, for looking after that. Much appreciated. I thought maybe sometimes when you get talking too deep, I've noticed that with Skype. Sometimes when you get too deep into stuff, your connection goes for takes a beating. Yeah, okay, everything's good. I think we're back on air here. Says we are. So I'm going to see if I can't get my hands on Karen. Where is she hiding at? Here she is. I'm going to see if I can drag her in, see if she's online. She contacted me last night, but it was after I was doing the show and went into her note that was done the show. So stuff that she would like to speak about what went down on the Calgary election. This is important for people to understand. There's no such thing as a
Hello?
Yeah, Karen?
No, just a minute, please.
Okay. There's no such thing as a honest election. They don't exist.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? You the white supremacist woman from Calgary?
The best white supremacist in the West.
How you doing, dear?
I'm great. How are you?
Always good. Always good. Yeah, you left me a note last night. Something to do with the election, mayor news.
I did. Because I was at a gathering in the morning yesterday, and I was speaking with some people, and this lady told me a very interesting conversation that she had had. And so at this point it's all hearsay, but this is a person that I trust. So she said she was talking to this woman that was at one of the polling stations in Calgary, and she said that when they were out of ballots, they had only mayor ballots left, and the person that was, describing this to the crowd, to the lineup, said that there's mayor ballots left for anyone voting Nenshi. I thought it was a really, really odd report to get from somebody, but the volunteers there said that for anyone that was voting Nenshi. And so I'm going to try and find, I sent a message to her, back to her yesterday afternoon to see if we can get the woman who made this statement, who apparently witnessed this, so that we can hear from her what happened there. And then she also... Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, and she also said that there were buses, like school buses, that had like immigrant Canadians. She said Muslims. The buses were carrying the Muslims to the voting stations, and it was also said that they were going from stations to stations on these buses. So it's something that really needs to be looked into further, because it's a really, really strange report to be getting from someone. And so then I was wondering too, like, it said on the Elections Calgary website that if you aren't registered to vote, you can go to a voting station and you can show ID to be able to vote. Mm-hmm. So I was wondering, like, does an Alberta driver's license even show your Canadian citizenship in any way if you have a different status that's non-Canadian? And then I got a response actually back, because I posted that question on Facebook. I got a response back that no, it doesn't. The driver's license look the same whether you're a Canadian resident or not. So I was like thinking to myself, how would a person at a voting station know a person's Canadian citizenship if they went to the polling station to vote.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Exactly. I saw that too, that thing about the ID, right? And that just put my antennas straight up in the air. And but you bringing up this thing of like how is it that you didn't print enough ballots? Question, right?
right. Well, they actually, the city, because I read all the newspapers, and I ended up writing an email to the mayor, to the elections office, and I CC'd a bunch of the local news, and because I was reading all the articles, and they said the city admits that they had printed 105% of ballots for eligible voters. So there was more than enough that were printed. And so I'm like, well, okay, so X amount of voters in each area means that X amount of ballots should be in each area.
At each poll, yeah.
Right, and or even to have them close by in the area at some point where they could distribute them within minutes to whoever needs them, right? Like, yeah, really, really strange.
Because I mean, if you have a ward that has 100,000 voters in it, you print 100,000 ballots, right?
That's right.
And you deliver those to the polls.
Especially like the registered voters, right? Like
right.
as soon as I go up and I say who I am and I show my ID, they go to the back and they have a card that has my name on it.
Right.
So I also wonder if I would have gone to a different polling station. Do they all have a card that has my name on it, or is because I went to the one that was closest to me, right? So
well, you were registered to vote at a certain poll, right?
Yeah, well,
right. Where you
I
the
completed the census and I was registered to vote, so I went to the one closest to me, and they had a card with my name on it.
Right.
So if I would have gone to a different place that was in my area, but not necessarily the closest,
no, you would not have had.
My ID, would they still have a card with my name on it? I'm not sure. But
no, absolutely not. Right.
But so yeah, so how would one polling station from the next know if someone went to one polling station and just showed ID, they were not registered, and then they voted, and then
they get on the bus and go to the next one,
go to another one, and they're not registered there, and then the votes just get counted and they get submitted, and there's no question on the identities of anybody.
Well,
right?
Exactly, and the other problem was that. Because I've run in elections, the scrutineers are isolated, right? Their job is there to make sure the vote count's correct. They have no access to the outside. So, remember the official vote count, calgaryvotes.ca, which is the only place that those votes come up first, right? They're in charge of the votes.
Right.
And all the other media, just like you would see it on the screen, that's where they get their information as to what the vote count is. But yet, we see these numbers being fed into the Nenshi camp, saying that he's this much ahead of the next guy, Smith, and the scrutineers are somehow relaying this information over to Nenshi's camp. How is that possible? It's not possible. That's a breach of the vote. That's a breach of the whole election.
Well, my theory on that was
what you brought up about the buses and that makes perfect sense, because the people didn't want Smith to concede the vote, right? They were pissed when he conceded, but he waited a certain time, and then as soon as he conceded, because the vote difference was running about 10,000.
Yeah.
And as soon as he conceded, they shut down the vote. It wasn't until the next day that we see the final results, and the final results have Nenshi 30-some thousand votes ahead of Smith. How the hell that happened? The buses must have been running late. I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous. And when you see who's all attached to your Muslim mayor and who all he's connected to, right? You know, he won the world mayor, right?
Right.
He's hooked up with the Mosaic Institute. He's hooked up with the university. He's hooked up with the United Nations. He's hooked up with Trudeau. And you think you had an honest election? I would say the chances on that are zero.
Excuse me. And he's always supporting the Muslim Association of Canada and the cultural Islamic centers.
Right.
So this is just terrorist sympathizing because everyone knows, or anyone that does any little bit of research beyond mainstream media knows that most organizations have their ties to Hamas and.
And there was a big problem with he didn't get in, right? Because the Alberta government is, I don't know if they've already done it, but they were going to push and make it a law that the public schools had to teach Arabic. Now, then she didn't win that. That would have thrown a real wrench into that nonsense.
Well, and knowing what I know about the Calgary Board of Education and Alberta Education now since running for school board, there's several languages that each school offers, right? So, this is just for me to make a fair statement on that, is that there's several languages that Alberta Education offers, and so what that article says that if 12 students in a school want to learn Arabic or to learn bilingually in Arabic, then this curriculum is available for that school. So 12 students in a school have to vote to want this. So if before, actually, it got taken down, the site got changed, but before you can go to the CBE website and you could click on German, and you could see that one school in Calgary offered bilingual studies in German.
Right.
So that means that school had a demand, they wanted it, right?
Right.
So what will be really, really interesting to see is how many schools pop up, because you know Muslims, they're all going to want this, and there's definitely going to be more than 12 in each school. So it will be in every school. It looks like it's an equal thing to all these other different languages, but we just know how Muslims make it not equal. They're
right.
So.
Well, what we have here is because I live in rural Ontario, and the county just south of us is only, I don't know what it is, maybe 10 miles, if that, south of us. They have sprung up this deal. The government's given them X amount of money to teach Arabic, or to teach English as a second language to immigrants, but we don't have any immigrants here to speak of. So they're going down to the city to bring these said immigrants up into these small towns, which I read a paper, a government paper, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, called the Repopulation of Rural Ontario, and knew exactly what the hell that was about. And so now we have a town north of us here, 50 miles, which wants to increase its population. It's only 20,000 people. It's been 20,000 people ever since I can remember. And they want to, the mayors got together in the area, and they want to increase the population of Owen Sound by 10,000 people. Well, where the hell are you getting these people, right? Well, in comes the immigrants, right? And so, it was really funny because the picture they showed in the media of this teacher at a blackboard teaching a second, or teaching English, but it was all, on the board was all Spanish. It wasn't Arabic, it was Spanish, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we don't have any Spanish immigrants to speak of, although we did open the border to Mexicans. So maybe that's the deal. I don't know, but I really
I read an article from Ontario that they were selling realty and property at a big slash of the pricing. to entice people
they
to
were
move back
selling
into
what?
rural areas.
I'm sorry.
And I was like, I bet
what?
you this is I didn't look too much into it, but I was like, this sounds like an immigration program.
Well, we have a little town east of me here where there's a small hospital, and a Muslim developer from down around Toronto donated $500,000 to this little hospital over a period of years. No, he didn't just cut the check, over a period of years. And then, isn't that great? Everybody's smiling. And you read down further, and he's going to build an 800 home subdivision near Dundalk, Ontario, which is nowhere, with nothing. I doubt there's 800 homes in Dundalk, and he's going to build 800 home subdivision, which is too far north of the city, really, to commute. So who's going to move into these 800 housing units being built by this Muslim developer? Oh, I don't know. Let me think. No, the invasion is well underway.
Yeah. Well, and what you said, too, about the borders being opened from Mexico, there is a really, really specific reason why he did that. And if everyone remembers the picture of Trudeau shaking hands with George Soros, and George Soros was saying that he is going to be helping with the refugee migrations, right? They were commending each other about how wonderful it was to help the refugees, and Soros was going to help and sponsor refugees. And then there were news articles about hundreds of thousands of Middle Eastern and African migrants that were waiting at the borders of Mexico to migrate to Canada.
Ah.
So actually, one of the next things I would like to confirm, I actually spoke to a Calgary Border Service agent from the Calgary airport. I met him at a gun show here in Alberta. I was at an Olds getting petitions signed, and there was it was just an innocent conversation. I wasn't drilling him about anything. I didn't even really know he was a border service agent because he wasn't in uniform or anything. But then all of a sudden we were talking about it, and this is what he said. He said is that right now Calgary gets plane loads from Mexico, and when they land, the people get off and they declare refugee status. So, I mean, I didn't drill him. I didn't get his name, and I didn't, just air that conversation right away but me being pretty good at conspiracy, I know exactly what it means because I remember seeing the photos of the hundreds of thousands that were waiting in Mexico to come here. So for them to not even require visas at this point, and for us to also be accepting refugees from any area, it's pretty much been validated.
Well, you figure how fast.
Getting plane loads of Mexico, and as soon as they land, they are declaring refugee status. Now, I'm just going to assume at this point they're not Mexican. They're not Mexican.
Well, no, they won't likely be Mexicans. But you're aware that but you're aware that Canada partnered with the UN Refugee Agency and also partnered with George Soros's Open Societies.
That's right.
So and I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but there's a very interesting video of Soros from years back, where he took credit for destroying the Philippine economy, but the media guy asked him, well, do you feel any remorse about it? He said, no, because that was an amoral act, right? And therefore I don't feel any remorse. And this is the kind of garbage that's taken place in this nation. Now, I don't know what the general
feeling. It's so bad for any economy that he crashes or any.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know for sure if but what's the general feedback on this election in Calgary? I mean, I've seen people on Facebook and that you're going like this is a setup, right? This was not illegal. This was not a lawful election.
Well,
how are the people in Calgary? They just, oh well, so what? What are you going to do? Is that the attitude, or is the attitude, people starting to get a little more antsy in Calgary, or what?
Well, I mean, every place that I'm going to, and I mean, granted, I'm not in malls and things, I'm not doing lots of the things mainstream does, right?
Right.
But I mean, everyone around me is super disappointed and super really, really scared, knowing that we have a Muslim mayor, for another term, right? The Quran says that the women and children can be sex slaves. We don't want that. We don't want our children to be at risk. Look for an example, right? So everyone that I talk to is really, really against Nenshi. But I'm not seeing, and I mean, maybe people are making moves, but they're the mainstream media wouldn't show it if they were, right?
No.
Yeah, Booger. Well, that's good because I just made you breakfast.
How old's your daughter?
My son,
son, I'm sorry.
He is 3, Arden.
3? Right.
Yeah, so he's got
and I just want people to understand why Karen Rand is a Board of Education trustee is she has a 3-year-old son that's going to be going to school in the not too distant future, and she stepped up to the plate because it's like a little obvious what they're doing to the children in the schools, and I can't say this enough that we have a duty to step up to the plate. Now, are you still there, Karen, or are you making breakfast?
Oh, no, I'm there. I had hash browns already.
Okay. Now, my question to you is, because it's very, very difficult to get people to step up to the plate. And what I've been telling them is, if you don't step up to the plate, Whitey, okay, your legislatures, your town councils, your city councils are going to fill up with immigrants. And they're going to be Muslim. And those are the people that make the rules, regulations, and the laws. And if you don't step up, these people are going to fill up your legislatures and they'll be writing the laws. And they didn't come here to integrate. They came here to move their religion, their laws into your lands. All you got to do is look at Europe. I mean, just go look at Europe. It's a freaking disaster. Why are you allowing that disaster to move in here? But my question to you, Karen, is I know it's very difficult for people to step up to the plate the first time, but your experience, because you got to go out and speak to people, and I think this is one of the most important parts of the election, whether or not you win or not, is that you have the opportunity to speak to people. You have an opportunity to put a seed in people's heads. And I think that's really, really important. And how, do you feel positive or negative that you actually went to the effort that you did to run in this election as a school board trustee?
Well, I'm kind of going to sit in the middle on that because it would have been great if I had more money to self-fund myself.
Right. I
was kind of relying on the people I know to help me a bit more, and so like Complacent Canada, no one really helped much, so I couldn't reach as many people as I wanted to. But as far as to actually have a conversation with someone or a group of people and slow it down and get rid of all this extreme and hate and racism garbage, that just shuts down a conversation. I find that most time when you're talking, like face-to-face, and you're starting to explain to them some of the things that you know, such as Soji 123 and what it's about and where it comes from and things like that, and just everyone's just slowing down a little bit more and having a conversation, that most of the time you got like a 90% success rate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel that that's why I did get nearly 2,000 votes is because, those nearly 2,000 people is how many people I was able to reach in 4 weeks.
Yeah,
right?
and that's a lot of effort. I mean, I ran in 2 elections, and I'm going to be running again next year. Everybody's bitching and complaining, but trying to get somebody to step up to the plate to actually help is really, really difficult.
Right, and
those
as soon
are
as
you're
the
going
election
against.
happened, everyone starts complaining.
Those you're going against have already been vetted, and they've fed the money, right? And they're fed the door knockers. So it's very difficult for someone like yourself or me or the general public to be in a position where they can mount a proper campaign. But this is why I say, if we had 3 of you, right, 3 candidates running for the same positions, you have that many more people knocking the doors, you have that many more people having conversations, and you change the conversation, okay? Because it's all about propaganda, really. I mean, if you one woman telling the people the truth, and all the other candidates are telling them nonsense, generally the nonsense will overpower the truth. And that's how it's always been constructed, and that's how they've always held control. We just need more people out doing exactly what you did. People have questions, but they don't do any research to get the answers. You did the research to get the answers, and then that gives you the knowledge, and you go out and you put the knowledge to the people. Now, that knowledge that you gave to those 2,000 people that voted for you, that knowledge is stuck in their head now. They see things with a different set of eyes now. Or what you did was you confirm to them what they are thinking, but haven't bothered doing the research to find out. They're thinking something's wrong here. So you did a beautiful job, and it's tough. It's really tough when you're out there by yourself trying to buck everything else. But you did it, and I think you probably feel stronger for it.
I do.
I'm hoping you're feeling stronger for it. I mean, wore out, beat up, and tired, but...
Well, I got a little bit of time to regroup, and I rocked the boat pretty hard when I publicly just slandered the LGBT community and compared them to terrorists, because they're terrorizing me. They're terrorizing me about what they feel is right to teach my child, right? Like, so
right.
What I noticed a couple of weeks in, and then I did that. And I was taking a lot of beating from a couple hundred people,
Uh-huh.
But then what I noticed is all of a sudden there were more news stories about parents being upset with what their child came home saying, or more and more. There's a girl in BC that does lots of awareness on the SOGI 123. So she's making headways with tens of thousands of people supporting her organization. And there's more and more, she's doing a good job getting more and more media, although the same thing that happens, like even that rally that was in Toronto yesterday,
Right.
What the mainstream will do is they will cater to the people that are protesting it, and they'll make the story still seem like these people are alt-right or crazy or like fascist or racist or homophobic. I actually have a sister who's a lesbian. I was at her wedding a couple years ago, so I've never tried to kill her because she's a homo, right? She was actually, when she saw me getting all that slandering, she was sending me Ben Shapiro debate videos on how to debate transgender, and says, "Here, I think you can use this." She knows the statement that I made is about their community. It's about their group. Right? Their group is a bunch of bullies, right? And the same with the media, the same with some of these unions and other groups. The guy that won trustee in my area, he was part of a PC Slate team. They had 4 people running in different wards, and they were going door to door since the spring, right? So as soon as I was getting slandered, the media was calling him and putting him in the spotlight, condemning it, right? So I'm like, it's so true. What we think is so true. But this is the sad part, is that in some cases, like him winning by 10,000 votes against mine, right? Like him having 10,000 votes over mine is because these are people, like, all their groups support each other, and when someone's making a political move, they all support it, and they make all these moves and support each other, so they do get so far, right? And that's what we lack on any conservative or right-wing, or I would even say in neutral, people that are neutral right now, is that there's just not as many people that are willing to support, and all, like, even the group that does all this SOGI awareness and the Parents for Choice and Education.
What is that? What are those letters? SOJ. What is that?
SOGI 123 is sexual orientation and gender identity. 123. It's the curriculum from the United Nations on sexual orientation and gender identity. So you know, the UNESCO lab would be taking this international curriculum and applying it to our Canadian curriculum, and of course our NDP are a bunch of globalists as well. Right. So that's what they're doing with our education overhaul. Is they're making sure that each grade is talking about gender identity.
Have you ever been to the UNPA site?
UNPA.
Right.
Not sure offhand.
It's called the United Nations Parliamentary Assembly.
Okay.
You need to go there because even your conservative friends need to go there because the UNPA is a group of parliamentarians who want a UN parliament, right, which will supersede our parliament. And in there you will find members, you find David Suzuki, of course, and Elizabeth May and all these people, but you will find people from all parties in there, okay, from the Conservative, the NDP, and the Liberals, and the Green Party, are all in there, okay? So this idea that people are still under this idea that the right are different than the left. They've all sold their freaking souls, and they're all pushing us in the same direction. They just use a different verbiage to do it. But what you were saying about, this is the problem. The average man and woman, they may go to vote. I used to do this at the polls just for fun. I would go and stand at a poll, and I'd say, would you mind if I asked who you're voting for? And they'd tell me. I said, why would you be voting for that party? Well, our family's always been conservative or liberal or NDP or whatever. And what are the issues that you find most important during this election? And 9 out of 10 people, issues? What issues? Well, you're voting, right? Do you understand the issues that are at play? No. I just come vote once every 4 years and go home. And this is the problem. We're so easily taken down. And there's an old saying, you will either affect politics or you will be affected by politics. And because people don't become involved in it, those that are involved in it have a pretty easy time of deceiving us.
Yeah, and then people that are voting have a pretty robotic vote, right? Like, whether they're blue or red, it's just like, it's so programmed in them, too. It's like what I said, the guy running against me was part of a PC Slate team, right? This one guy in my ward, he's members of a bunch of parties. But the new mayor in Fort McMurray is a former PC MLA. We got Jason Kenney, former PC, now the United Conservative Party, who has taken over the grassroots Wild Rose Party. And now Brian Jean's leadership is at risk, where I actually really liked Brian Jean for a long, long time. I hate that he folded to the PCs, right? Because the 100-year-old PC party, Jim Prentice worked for the Rothschilds in New York.
Right. And I don't
nobody
know.
understands that left or right, they're everywhere.
I still believe Prentice was taken out.
His accident, the plane crash, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Some people who know airplanes really well were discussing that particular model of plane that they were flying, and the odds on that particular plane falling out of the sky are about 0. Because, you're right, Prentice was up to his eyeballs in this stuff, so I don't know if he irritated somebody or what, but for him just to fall to the sky like that makes no sense.
If anything happens to me, you guys will know you'll know why. Because I keep, like I said, I emailed the news stations, right? I was like, what is the city going to do about this vote? You guys say that you're sorry. You guys say that you had all these ballots available. Everyone knows that people weren't able to vote that night, so this absolutely doesn't fairly represent a fair vote in our city. And not one reply, obviously, from them. How do you get a whole city to make a motion that we want a re-election? If everyone's just sitting and able to deal with it, the only solution that I see is that from now till 4 years from now, we are preparing harder than ever, because these next 4 years are going to be torture. There's just going to be more and more.
What they're going to drive into Calgary and Alberta in the next 4 years is going to be just ugly.
Yeah, we don't even have these 4 years at this point. I'm super disappointed. I did get actually a little bit happy, or when I heard, there's a friend of mine, I always keep him anonymous, because he and friends of his are super smart, way more intelligent than I am, and they actually, this group of people they're part of the anti-Antifa. They have members that have joined Antifa, so that they can identify and know what this group is up to. And what he told me the other day was that 2 people from his circle of friends actually won councillor positions in our city. Like I said, they obviously did some right moves, right? Because I was just really happy to hear that 2 wards apparently we do have, right? And I don't ask much more questions. I let them do their thing, because it just makes me feel a whole lot happier knowing that he's there. At the same time, every time I was rallying and anytime we were coming face to face with Antifa, he was always there telling me, this person Antifa got arrested, this person got arrested. We know the identities of all these people. And so he is also the one that gives me the stats that say that Calgary Antifa is 75% is LGBTQ community. So it's good to know that there are some people that are getting headway, and I think just like people woke up in the States, and they're just tired of all the BS in the mainstream media. We had friends protesting in Vancouver outside of CBC, just walking around saying defund CBC, propaganda, fake news. We have another event coming up on the 4th, which Antifa has declared a day of mayhem, where they're going to be burning cities in the U.S. and all these things. So there's events going to be happening across Canada. So I think I'm going to put one together for the 4th here in Calgary, and we can talk about the CBC again. We can talk about Trudeau again. It's just kind of maybe too many people will wake up way too late, right? And then they'll understand.
Well, that's what this is the problem. Okay, we are in the West, a nation. We're both America and Canada. We're whiners. We whine after the fact. We don't indulge before they get what they want. Each time they implement something, people whine about it, but then they don't do anything about it. And the important part of getting hold of majority vote at the local level, because that's the only way we can afford to go, is it's absolutely necessary that we do this. The problem is, how do we encourage the people and educate the people and get the knowledge to the people so that they actually understand what the hell's going on before it's too late? A friend
of mine gave me a suggestion the other day to like rent or buy a bus and put banners on it, and get permits to be able to advertise off of it, and just drive around and spread awareness. And then I was like, oh, I kind of need a job now that I didn't get this job, right? So I need more work. So I was like, what if it was like a food truck? And, at the same time it was selling like Canada flags. It was selling Canada flags. And then I was like, kind of doing a little play on names and stuff. And I was like, so maybe I'll look into it, because I don't really have the money to invest into this yet, right at this point. But, like the alt-right chicken wing, like have like a chicken wing food truck or something that was all patriotic.
Why don't you revamp? I loved it when I lived. I can't remember, it was Calgary, Edmonton. They had chicken on the run, and they had these cube trucks with a fryer in it, right, and a big chicken head on the top of it.
Okay, yeah.
So you didn't have to go to the store to get you didn't have to go to Kentucky Fried Chicken or wherever to get your chicken, right? You just make a phone call, and this chicken truck shows up in front of your house, right? And they cook it fresh right there, right? So,
like go around the neighborhoods like with like an ice cream truck, like, but it has to be something like all the kids come out, right? No, like playing music around the streets, and like have people come out and buy chicken wings and beer or something, like, or bacon sandwiches or something, like.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's you think about it, these other groups, the LGBTQ, the party people, the different parties, and all of these different factions, okay, they're constantly working on stuff, right? And they're constantly putting, small groups of people together, and they're constantly working, right? And that's what we need to do. What happens too often is that once the election's over, everybody just goes back to what they're doing. But you got to remember that all of these other groups, they don't stop, right? They never stop. They're working on the next election before this election even took place, right? They're always on the go. They're always recruiting. They're always engaging. And this is a problem that we, the general public, fail to understand. Now, the UNPA, we have 803, I think it is. I think that's what it said, 803 members of Parliament of Canada are members of the UNPA, which is a campaign for United Nations Parliamentary Assembly. Justin Trudeau is a member, obviously. But you need to go through these names here. Hetty Fry's out in the West Coast, I think. This just goes on and on and on and on and on and on.
To bring it back to what you said about it doesn't matter if you're left or right, like they're everywhere, right? I was even commenting the other day saying, like at this point, when it comes to globalism and and the evil occult and this mission to run the world, like to own the whole world, like some of them are Jews, some of them are Catholics, some of them are black, and some of them are white. Some of them are, at this point, you can't even use this like people against people thing and races against races thing, because there's a peaceful majority of each of those types as well, right? Like, but to say that it's left, it doesn't matter about left or right anymore, because both of our parties here in Canada, or all three of our main parties here in Canada, are all corrupted. We need a new party. We need a party of people. And there's a person in Ontario who like foresees this happening, and she calls it the Voice Canada Party. And I was like, it's such a great idea. Like, you could have your Voice Calgary party, you could have your Voice Alberta party, you could have your Voice Canada party, and it could be totally grassroots with no affiliations to any other parties. And if people get to work right now, by 2019, it could actually take the election. Do you know what I mean? Like, people would have to get off their butts right now and get to work. But the right is so disorganized. We don't think the same way as the people on the left. We don't do things that are corrupt and cruel. Everything's all about doing things the right way. When you're just an average, silent majority person, you know, like most of these people are good people. I had a friend actually that had a dream that he was sitting in like this big theater, and they were watching a show on a big screen. And then all of a sudden he saw like the curtains lit on fire, and it went right around the room. The fire spread right around the room, and then all of a sudden all the chairs were on fire. And he says that there was a handful of people that got up and tried to leave, and the rest of the people were all sitting there with very, very sinister faces, laughing. And he said in his dream he turned to the person next to him, and that person looked really creepy, and he said, "Don't worry, these people will be entertained until they die."
Yeah.
And like it just made me chill, like just sent chills. You know, it's just everyone is just going to sit here until it's too late. They won't believe the people trying to tell them that Canada is going totally on the wrong road right now, and that it's going to be destroyed.
Yeah, and you know and that's the game. The game is to destroy, and I mean, just that thought. I mean, how many of our men and women went off to foreign countries and gave up their lives under this idea of protecting our freedom, and here we are having our country destroyed from the inside. And people just sit there dumber than a box of rocks, really. You know, yeah. we got to stir these people up somehow. But I do honestly believe that they're starting to pay a certain amount of a little more attention than they did 5 years ago, even. There's more people, as more people get their backs up against the wall. That, I think, makes them more eager to find out what the hell's going on, and more accepting of the message that you and your people are putting out there. Like, I would just like to see every bus stop in Calgary slammed with flyers, everywhere that you can put, every laundromat, everywhere. Just keep posting stuff. You know, people think that the internet is the answer. The internet is not the answer. The internet is a good tool, but it most definitely is not the answer.
And that's what I'm learning too, and especially since they deleted my Facebook page completely, right? Uh-huh. Like, as soon as a few people complained, or as soon as they looked at what the content of my page actually has, my Facebook page got removed completely. So here is all the activism, all the stuff that I've done. It's all gone, right? And even starting this new page, I'm like, what's the point? Because I know I need to go door to door, right? Like, I know that I need to be
That's what we need. We need the people on the doors. Now, what I was talking to, who was I talking to? Helen, I guess. And I think she's in the chat there today. And if you are, I think I saw you. Hi, Helen. But, you know, we're setting up some sort of a online, you know, what do they call those things? A property association, or whatever they call those things. Name's escaping me right now, but a ratepayers association page type of thing, right? Okay. Where we bust it up into wards, so that when there's an issue that is affecting a ward or several wards or whatever, or the city at whole, we can get this out to people, get the email lists, right? so that when something is amiss or something is coming up that the people aren't been alerted to yet, we can alert them, right? Just through
I actually have an idea. Like, I actually built a page that I haven't launched or published that I called Street Smart Calgary.
It's called what?
Right? I just called it Street Smart.
Okay.
And, to have street smarts is one thing, right? And where that's exactly how it would be broken up. It would be broken up in wards. Once you have, like, a lead in each ward, then it takes the workload off of people that are organizing this, to have one lead per ward, and then to have, like, kind of the way that we have counselors and things, right? But so to have one lead per ward, and then they have a team below, and then you could watch local crime, you could watch, even just in the cases that no-go zones were developing in certain areas, or put news on sexual predators, like all those kind of things, right? And have the community come together in sort of like a community watch sort of atmosphere. And then that way too, when something really crucial was coming up, then people would be...
Yeah, we have some writers, you can write, okay, so they pass this Arabic in the schools thing, right? And so that you can give the background of where it came from, why it came, and all of this stuff. It's about getting knowledge to the people, right? And so that the people, it's basically... the opposite of mainstream, right? You're taking the mainstream stories or whatever, and then you're dissecting them, and you're showing these people who's connected to what, and why this story is what it is, or that the council's working on something that's nefarious, and this is why you need to know this, right? And really the deal is to encourage these people to turn into being their own researchers, right? But we have to lead them in somehow, right? We have to get their interest, and we don't have access to the media really, and you can go out. If we could put this together and then, say, get 5, 6, 10 people or whatever to go out on a Saturday afternoon or whatever, knock doors, right, and say, hi, we're with the Ratepayers Association. You're aware of us and stuff, right, and just keep promoting this stuff, right, and turn it not so much into a hard job or something that's fearful, but turn it into something that's actually fun.
Yeah, like even to have. If you had communities in each of the wards, you could have regular town halls to make sure that you're talking about the issues that are most important in those areas. You could have people even just going out and doing community cleanups and things like that as well, right? Like, so there could be ways to put light on it that are not all like doom and gloom or like all the hard.
Exactly. That's it, right there. And there's nothing more Calgarian or Albertan than a nice ward barbecue in mid-February.
Like more block parties, more events where people are getting to know their neighbors.
It's 30 below. We're having a barbecue because we're Albertans, and I always thought of Albertans as tough people. I always thought of Albertans, and I worked all over Alberta, and I always thought about. I just can't believe that Albertans have seemed to have got so wussy. It's the one province in this country that I thought would be the toughest to screw with. And you got a woman premier of the NDP. I mean, how is that possible? Right? You got a Muslim mayor in Calgary. How the hell is that possible? Right? My memories of Alberta would clash desperately with the Alberta of today. It just doesn't. It's completely wrong. So whatever's flipped upside down, we just need to flip it right side up again. But it's going to take a lot of work, and it takes a lot of engagement, right?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Is that the people I was meeting with yesterday, they are people that like to go and do, right? Mm-hmm. It's not a very big group at this point, but I think everyone's kind of feeling that same thing now that they lost this election so bad, and there's a lot of people saying that, like, that like more people need to get involved, and more people will see this need to get involved. So with that being said, you're actually the second person in the last 2 days that has said that we need like kind of committees in every single ward in our areas. And this is a friend of mine that actually lives in Quebec who I've rallied in solidarity with and things like that for other events. And I think everyone is on the right track in saying so. Like that we need to, it is really hard because I need some work right now that gets me paid, and not...
Yeah, well, hey, we're all in the same boat as far as that's concerned. We're all struggling financially because we put so much time and effort into trying to get this going here. And it's not what you call a good paying job. It's a non-paying job.
Activism is volunteer. Right?
But, it's...
So even though, I spent a couple of days where I was, pretty down. I was down about the results. 24 hours after the vote, I was pretty miserable. Because then I just saw everyone complaining, right? And then none of them helped me, for example, right? So I was feeling pretty miserable for 24 hours. But then people are like, so what are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? What are you going to do next, right? And then I just had to sit and listen to the conversations for a little while. And like I said, I think you're on the right track. We need to actually put together an organization that's ready to do some long-term commitment to constantly be watching and to constantly be growing the support for things to be changed.
Yeah, I think if people can get it through their heads that, they didn't get us here in the position they've got us in now in a couple of weeks, right? They've taken hundreds of years, really.
Yeah.
And so, this is a long-term commitment, just like their long-term commitment. But can we turn it around? Absolutely. I have no doubt in my mind we can turn it around.
I think we can.
Yeah, but, we if we decide we're going to win, then we're going to win. And it's just to get people up and turn this into everybody's so... It's like they got the weight of the world on their shoulders, right? Toss that off and let's have some fun with this, right?
Yeah.
Like I was telling people before I got you on air, I was talking about, that there's Judeo-phobia and there's Islamophobia, but there's no whiteophobia. And when you look at Judeo-phobia and Islamophobia, which they're both connected, they're working together. Whether anybody likes to believe it or not, we got all kinds of evidence of it. So the first thing it says is fear of, right? And I thought, well, wait a minute, where's the whiteophobia, right?
Yeah.
Why are they not afraid of us, right? And therein lies the problem. So, somebody calls you white supremacist, say, thank you for noticing. Don't fight with these people. Just blow them off, right?
Yeah.
Stop. See, this idea of white supremacy, which is ludicrous, right? I mean, our forefathers just happened to be white Europeans, right? That does not add supremacy.
A white majority to us feeling that we are all supreme and...
Well, when they pull the white supremacy card, what you end up with is people apologizing for being white, right? It's just a mental game, right? So you're a white supremacist. Well, thank you for noticing. And you know how fast that will shut them up, right? Because they're waiting for you to say, I am not, right? Just give it to them nice and easy, and it'll just twist their brains. I just call a guy white supremacist. He said, thank you. Now what? Right? He didn't apologize. He didn't want to fight with me. He just said, thanks for noticing, right? We got to turn this into fun somehow. I'd like to see a ton of T-shirts flying around,
And a few well-thought PDFs, like flyers, that go out and that are capable of reaching every person in every ward. It is a great goal to have. I think it's achievable. And if we are thinking about what we're saying and where it's not twisted to sound so extreme, like I said, the average conversation when we're talking about Trudeau or NDP or globalism, we're usually hitting like an 80 to 90% success rate at this point.
Right.
And our children are going crazy right in front of us, like the kids coming out of university.
I mean, they have no capacity to deal with life whatsoever. I mean, they've mentally abused these people until they are totally and completely incompetent to look after themselves.
Yeah.
But then they always create the problem, right? They wanted a mental health. They build up the mental health problem. They create it, and then they build all these bureaucracies to help with what they did. Right? It's really quite pathetic the way.
And then even just over those last couple of weeks, all of the Muslim attacks that were in Canada, people are getting stabbed. People are getting hit by cars. These attacks are going to increase, and then we can call a spade and take that information out as well, right?
Yeah.
For people to just actually grow up to understand that being humanitarian means that we don't allow this to happen to Canada, and we can do it without fighting each other and having civil wars that have taken down other nations. They do this on purpose. They want us all against each other. They want us divided. That's what the left and the right.
We want to rise above this violence thing because they're trying to drag us into it hard. They're really trying to drag us into it. We got to stay above that nonsense. We're better than that. We're smarter than that. But we're just about out of time, Karen. But could you please try desperately to get a hold of this, whoever it was, that about the buses and they had ballots, but only for the mayor, that kind of stuff. This is a real story that needs to be looked into.
Right.
Because if that be the case, then we call out for a new election.
And I like that a couple of people have come forward to help because, like I said, I can't, the whole weight on my shoulders, I don't even know how to do this, to make the whole city realize we need a revote. I don't even know how to do it. So
okay. Well, we're about out of time here. I want to thank you so much for everything you've done, and you're a real inspiration. You're quite a young lady yet. You got a young child, and I want to thank you so much for standing up for your child and for your city and your country. And 3 o'clock, Hal Behind the Woodshed's on, and the deal with Hal is if you don't listen to his show, he will track your ass down, and he will take you up behind the woodshed and give you a whooping. So be there at 3 or look out for Hal.
We like it rough. Come on, Hal.
Anyways, I'm really happy that you are who you are, and I'm extremely extremely honored to have met you. And
well, maybe when you're running next year, I can come out and help you.
That would be brilliant. Okay, so I think we're going to hear music here any second if these things are running right. There it goes. Okay,
bye, Ron.
We're out of here. You take care. Thank you so much.
Buying time, killing people next in line, lower classes, social slime, they don't matter, genocide, sick from water, sick from air, making money, they don't care, Caesar shit, force of air, fuck them back, it's only for